portfolio's prompt, then this is on eCampus for you. It's now uploaded. And not too much is different with the final portfolio and with the midterm portfolio. The main difference, you'll even get a similar sheet back from me assessing it. The main difference is this time you're revising all 4 papers instead of just the first one. It's a very much a longer, more involved document. Now, however, just like before, again, the impetus is on you to prove to me that you've made lots of good revisions, you've made lots of good changes. So again, we have the cover memo page. So the length of this will vary depending on how many revisions you actually needed to do. But it'll probably be about a page and a half, even might go up to 2 pages. Where you outline out the process of revision that you've taken on all 4 of your papers. For that cover memo sheet, I'd again like to see some kind of reflection at the end, about where you are as a writer now versus where you were when you first started the course 6 weeks ago. Not just as a writer, but a thinker as well. This English 102 course is part of the reason why you take it, is to get this kind of introduction to the liberal arts. Of course, liberal arts giving both thinking about an issue in a critical way, examining all the perspectives in a just and equal way. So yeah, discuss your revisions, but also discuss where do you think you are now as an intellectual? Can you now research stuff better? Can you think through an issue better? Do you have a nice structure for your writing in the future? Things like the classical argument. So what are your perceived weaknesses still? It doesn't hurt to admit that you still have a perceived weakness in the cover memo. It's actually because the cover memo is all about how you've improved. If you still concede a few points, that's great, right? That's honest. But again, I will start everybody's portfolio out, by reading the cover memo, and just like before, I'll scroll. I'll have the way that I grade, I have 2 screens open, usually my laptop and my desktop. So I'll scroll down on one, look through the changes that you've made in all the papers after reading the cover memo, and I'll compare it to the first batch of comments that I gave you the first time. So the cover memo, and then all 4, I gave everybody some things to think about for all 4 of these. And the midterm portfolios for August and Tannen were, for the most part, uniformly excellent. But if you got an A on that, all you have to specify in the cover memo is that you were happy with the grade that you got at midterm. You're not revising this any further. However, let's say you got a B or C and you want to keep revising, this first paper, that's still an open option for you. But no matter whether you revise it more or not, still include the final document in the final portfolio. The annotated bibliography. Some of you guys had more than 10 sources your first time, but I think it's a good exercise for the final portfolio, to do some cutting. So after the research process, I asked you guys to do the 3 new sources after my annotated bib feedback last week. What are the best sources that you have now on the topic? All of you guys, some of you guys had some really good bibliographies, but all of you could stand to improve, maybe cut some of the fat out. Maybe you had like this really general Google source. You could probably replace it with something better. So narrow down what's your best 10 sources. Remember that a good annotated bibliography is a healthy garden. You don't have too much of one thing, whether that's 10 academic journal articles, that's a problem. it's always nice to have a good mix of websites, maybe something like Point of View or CQ, um, academic journals, maybe a book chapter. It's nice to have a good balance there. So in the portfolio, then tell me in the cover memo what you changed, but also give me the side bubbles. So be like, well, I added a new source here. This is the purpose. This is what this source added to my project. And that can be kind of like the comment, what you put in the comment bubbles when you're revising the annotated bib. I will say this. Usually, when I'm grading these, I'll read the annotated bib first. It automatically kind of gives me a baseline. Here's where here's the grade this person is automatically leaning towards. And then the next two papers tilt the balance one way or the other, or keep it the same. The annotated bibliography is probably one of the most important documents that you want to get right here. Of course, you want to do all the small tuning stuff as well. You want to make sure you cite your sources correctly. All of you guys, for the most part, did that, except for the one little quibble that I mentioned last week. Then the exploratory essay, the approach to revision you want to take on that. Pretty much just revise according to my comments. I didn't really have a great uniform. Everybody was doing the same kind of thing. Feedback. All of you guys had your strengths and your weaknesses on this paper. So maybe I told you something like, well, maybe you could analyze these sources more in your own words. Show more of your thinking, of your research process. Focus less on summary, more on your own personal analysis. That was probably the biggest comment that I gave across the board to most of you. Some of you might have needed to look more into one side or the other. Maybe some of you had kind of weak sources. I said get some more peer-reviewed stuff in. So kind of a similar comment to the annotated bib. Whatever the feedback that I gave you, try to address it here in the exploratory essay. Again, using the comment bubbles to show me especially the content revisions you changed. I don't really need comment bubbles for little things like comma splices or anything like that. And then, same thing for the classic argument. Classic argument's going to be an easy paper for me to grade, just for the simple reason that it's so structured. Does it have all the parts? Does it have the neutral summary? Does it have good premises? Have a counter argument rebuttal? Does it have a good intro, attention grabbing? Does it have a conclusion that does more than summarize the article? So you guys don't have the feedback for that yet. You just turned it in today. But I'm aiming to get that back by Thursday evening at the latest. So you will have Friday and Saturday at least to revise. The part of that's my fault because I gave a nice extended deadline to write the thing in the first place. And so I say here, remember, if a complete stranger takes a look at your portfolio, the ideal goal that I have, at least for everybody, is paper 2, 3, and 4 should all show this sort of nice progression in your thinking. So you're going to, just some directions, then you're going to have one Microsoft Word document, copy and paste all these documents in the one massive Word document. I don't submit 5 or 6 different files to me, because that's too much for me to keep up with. I want it all in one Word doc. So copy and paste it in. Sometimes when you're copying and pasting, the side comments sometimes don't show up. What you have to do for that's when you're pasting, you got to right click and click Accept Source Formatting. Then the comment bubbles will show up. I'm using a Mac. I can't really demonstrate that, but that's the instructions. That's how you make sure the comment bubbles show up when you paste a paper over from one to the next. So use the comments to point to your revisions. So just like before, whenever you do a revision, I'm using a Mac to record this video. Highlight over whatever it is, then add a comment bubble, then be like, added a new paragraph here. Maybe added a new source to my bibliography here that does this for my project. Whatever the comment bubble is, it's on you to point to the changes you've made in your documents. Like I told you guys before, you guys might go through the portfolio, make massive changes, but I don't grade these extremely thoroughly word for word the second time. The impetus is on you to show me where it is you've changed. And then as I'm comparing, I'm like, oh yes, the paper is much better now for this. Because maybe you added a topic sentence here. Maybe you added more analysis here. So the ball is in your court to show me what you've changed, both in the cover memo and in the paper itself, where you include these side comment bubbles. For little things like comma splices or something like that, just highlight those in yellow. So just highlight small changes to grammar or typos or something like that. But the big changes include the comment bubbles. So as far as the deadline for this, I'm giving you as much time as I can humanly possibly give you in order to grade these. Have enough time to grade them myself in a binge at that. Take the university wants grades on Tuesday, so I'll have Sunday and Monday to grade these. So Sunday the 24th by noon on Blackboard. Or Blackboard eCampus, same thing. Let me change that. So usually I give you a 24-hour window to get a paper in without question. Some of you guys haven't really taken me up on that this summer because all of you guys are such diligent students. But this time I can't. The deadline Sunday, June 24th at noon is firm and final. Now, as far as, let's say you guys want to chat with me about any of the revisions this week, I still, to this point in the summer, haven't had a video conference with anybody. But if it's something that you want to do, I'm making myself readily available the rest of the week. If you guys want to chat about any of the comments that I've given you on the papers, the online class is kind of hard in that regard because let's say that I give you feedback. Maybe the feedback isn't clear. Maybe the feedback seems kind of harsh. Sometimes it's great to have the normal semester, it's great to have a face-to-face conversation where I can discuss this with you, discuss my expectations. Considering a person on the other end, an online class, that's hard. So take advantage of that. Email me, schedule an appointment with me if you want to chat about your portfolio, about any of the papers, what kind of changes I would like to see happen in your papers. Have a chat with me about that, if you so choose. So this is in the English department textbook, the Joining Academic Conversations. But this is the English department at WVU has a uniform grading criteria. This is what I try to go by when I'm assessing portfolios. So let me walk you through it. An A portfolio is superior writing, demonstrates originality, initiative, and sophistication that go beyond the assignment's requirements. Writing at this level is composed of well-edited text, so not a lot of small errors, that show a clear, connected sense of audience, purpose, and development. You have good research that's well integrated and well documented. Now you see especially why the annotated bib is such an important document to this. You're able to analyze your writing, reflect on it, and revise and rewrite accordingly. So all of your changes, all of your revisions, for the most part, were knocked out of the ballpark. There wasn't too much else you could do to make your papers any better. Now that is a superior portfolio. I always kind of have to go over the A and the B very carefully, because that's usually when I'm giving feedback. When I give a B, I have to justify why I gave a B instead of an A. So I have to especially walk you through the A and the B. So the B then is strong. So strong is very loaded language. It still insinuates that it's a good piece of writing, but there's still lots of small things that you can do to still improve it. So as the criteria says, you succeed in meeting the goals in terms of audience, purpose, and genre. You don't need a lot of major changes. You have for the most part, good research. Maybe you need to integrate things a little more smoothly. You're able to reflect and make good changes. However, as we see with the underline section, the writer is willing to try some new strategies, although they may not all be successful. So usually a B then, it's good writing, but there's still lots of changes that could have happened to have improved it. Maybe you struggled a bit on the sentence level. Maybe you could have looked up a couple of articles, that I might have suggested. Maybe you just didn't fully give one side a fair treatment, whenever you were doing the exploratory essay. Whatever the case is, usually a B, it's a strong portfolio, strong piece of writing, but there's still changes that could have been made to have improved it. Things start getting a little more clear after that. A C, satisfactory. So you meet the basic requirements of the course. You had a minimum 20 pages of writing demonstrated here. You could have done better research. Research could be extended a bit further and more fully integrated. So maybe your sources mostly came from Google, or maybe most of your sources were on one side, or maybe you didn't cite your sources correctly. That usually starts pulling you towards this grade. The writer demonstrates some revision work, but research can be extended to more fully integrated into the overall argument. So a C, you meet the basic requirements, you do everything you need to do to pass, but the writing could still use a lot of work. Maybe on the content level, maybe on the sentence level. Usually a C portfolio, and I'm reading through them. Usually the indicator for a C is usually I'll skim through and not see many revisions. Or maybe the revisions I see are mostly on sentence level, grammar, typos. I'm not seeing a lot of content revisions. But as a whole, the portfolio is still good enough to pass. That's a C. D and an F. I usually have a very coarse metaphor here. Say it's like comparing the smell of dog poop and cat poop. Okay, I'll use the nice, polite terminology, since this is a video that's going to be up for posterity to see. But a D is weak writing. You don't fully meet the standards. Most of your texts are brief and underdeveloped, so maybe you didn't meet the page limit pretty much all the time. Your research is limited and ill-chosen. Most all of the text could use further major revisions. So you could have done a lot to have improved. An F's unacceptable. So a D, I like to say, is the dog poo. An F is the feline poo. Feline poo smells way worse, right? So unacceptable writing. You have pervasive problems all across the board. Or there's plagiarism. You guys have, for the most part, been a very strong group of writers. I'm usually honest with a class when I have one. I kind of have my doubts. I'll give any D's or F's this semester. Maybe that'll happen, but for the most part, all of you guys have done some good work. I don't look to have to give too many of those grades. But I need to get an updated tally on attendance with things like keeping up with your discussion board posts and whatnot. So that might take your grade down a bit if you've had problems with that. Or maybe you didn't have problems with that midterm but have the past couple of weeks. I'm going to update that information in the next couple of days, as well as get the homework grades back to you that I still need to do since the midterm. So you can expect those things back the next couple of days as well. You'll have all that information updated for you. So remember, the portfolio is worth 70% of the grade. Usually what you get on that's what you get in the course. Sometimes not. 20% is the homework grades, the informal writings. 10% is your participation. How well you participated on the discussion boards, doing everything you needed to do all summer. So that's the assessment, what I'm looking for. So over the next few days, as I'm working on your classic arguments, work hard on the annotated bib, work hard on the exploratory essay, work hard on the August Tannen paper if you need it. We're not really doing anything this week other than you working on your revisions. So that is that. I want to show you one other small thing, that I want, that can make all of your papers uniformly better. Now, this is something that I was supposed to go over in the midterm video, but I didn't. And that's the issue of trimming your sentences down, making sure that all of your sentences are concise. So usually something that I'm very adamant about when I look for final portfolios. I don't usually mark these a lot. I need to move myself, see what I'm doing. So I don't usually mark these a lot whenever I'm reading your papers, but I do look for it in the finals. And that's cutting unnecessary words, mostly adverbs, out of your writing. Now we all write adverbs in the first draft. They fill up space. However, 90% of the time, your sentences will be much better if you just cut the adverbs out. Adverbs are usually just filler. Of course, what do I mean by an adverb? An adverb is, a word that describes the verb more and adds an effect. So, usually, when you're looking for adverbs, most of the time you're looking for words that end in ly. If a word ends in ly, it can usually be cut. So let's look. So on a Mac here, I'm going up to the top, clicking Find. Control F is how you normally do this. Then I'm just going to type in ly. And so the word processor has taken me to these adverbs. So even just looking over this prompt, you see that I've included a lot. Or it's all, I've included most of these here for a purpose. But usually when you're going through your papers, you can usually ask yourself, does this word need to be here? If not, I can cut it out. We see here roughly, inherently, roughly again, fairly, roughly, directly, possibly, accordingly, generally, fully. All this is grading legalese, so to speak, but in your papers, you just run this Control F ly search for the most part in all of them. Usually your papers will be much tighter, they'll read much better as a result. I haven't really focused too much this summer on those smaller things. Now's a good time to work on them. Of course, work on this last after your content changes. There's other adverbs that don't end in ly. Very is one. I don't think I have any varies here. Often is another. Often is usually a word that you can cut. The Easy Writer book has a nice list of adverbs in it. So what I would recommend you do is go to the Easy Writer book, look at those lists, and then Control F most of that list of adverbs, especially the ones that don't end in ly. And then usually you can make the papers much better as a result. And so I usually have students do that in class the last week. So that's something that you guys can work on your own time. And that's it. That's really all that I have left to say regarding Final Portfolio. Said, you guys have been a great course. I've enjoyed having you this summer, following your projects. Of course, I don't know any of you face to face, but you guys have been good students. I hope you got something out of the course. As you might have talked to others, I teach my 102 course slightly different than most. And so hope you got something out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Make the best out of the general education class. I know taking general education classes is usually frustrating for students. Hopefully you got something out of this one. That's my hope, genuine hope. And I do ask all of you guys, evaluate me. I think they send the instructions on how to evaluate your professors online. So please do that. Please give me feedback about the course, things that I could do better. Especially, I've taught 102 100 times, but this is my first time teaching online. So maybe give me some constructive feedback, what I'm doing well, what I could stand to do to improve. And that'll help me a lot, especially as my career progresses as well. So let me know if you have any questions the rest of the week. Let me know if you'd like to video conference with me about any of your work. That said, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your summer.